Did you know that our ancestral past can be the cause of post-traumatic stress disorder? Post-traumatic stress can create pain on all levels. But why is it that some people who experience traumatic events go on to develop post-traumatic stress disorder and others do not? Post-traumatic stress is a serious physiological, mental, emotional, and energetic disturbance brought about by a shocking event. Post-traumatic stress means that a person who has suffered shock has not completed a natural cycle of physiological changes that is required for the system to rebalance. In other words, energy is overcharged or suspended in time. So here I describe what post-traumatic stress disorder is and why some people are destined to develop more debilitating symptoms than others. The causes of trauma are relative. Breaking a bone can evoke the same physiological response in the body as a person experiencing sexual assault or the effects of war. Post-traumatic stress disorder can develop after a person has been exposed to a traumatic event. Further symptoms can develop even years after the event, such as any major physical impact leading to injury, psychological trauma, such as being exposed to a severely distressing event like abuse or war. During the traumatic event, your body will react and primal survival mechanisms will be galvanized into action. Your breathing will change and adrenaline will activate your senses. Sometimes that means you disconnect from the reality of the situation and it feels like you're leaving your body. The after effects of trauma is shock. Shock is when the energy of your body, mind, and emotions is suspended in the time of the event. A sense of numbness or disconnection can occur. And in the aftermath that follows, it may feel like time has stopped, mentally, emotionally, and physically. Life seems different. It may be extremely hard to move on with your life, and you may feel like you're alienated from what is normal. A sense of withdrawal from all that you knew before may prevail. And this feeling of disconnection is generally linked to your soul energy, as your soul escapes from the devastating situation, and it does this to protect the integrity of your soul energy. In my work, I aim to help you bring fragmented parts of your soul back together. And in PTSD, your soul is fragmented, and when this happens, your physical body, your mind and emotions are left to deal with the aftermath. Post-traumatic stress can create pain on all levels. So why is it that some people who experience traumatic events go on to develop post-traumatic stress disorder and others do not? Post-traumatic stress disorder means that a person who has suffered shock has not completed a natural cycle of physiological changes that is required for the system to balance. You are stuck in fight and flight. Or in other words, as I said earlier, energy is kind of like overcharged or frozen or suspended in time. The natural cycle of fight or flight, which is a natural response to trauma, can be demonstrated in the study of how animals respond to stressful events. As a hunter, the lion, when it's not hunting for food, will be relaxed and at ease. However, when it's ready for its next meal, its physiological senses take over, its survival instincts are finely tuned to be ready to hunt for the next meal. Adrenaline floods the system, ready to enable it to pounce into action when the time is right. And as the hunted, the antelope will also be relaxed until its instincts alarm it to become alert that there is danger near. Fight or flight responses kick in and the adrenaline floods the system, ready for it to react. Both animals are experiencing similar responses but with different outcomes. So when the chase happens, the antelope has a choice. It can freeze, play dead, or keep running. In any case, the flooding of the senses, or in other words, the energy buildup, is the same. To freeze, for example, is to become invisible, blending in with the surroundings, and like us, holding our breath. To play dead is to fool the hunter that there is no need to do any more, as there will be no response. So if the antelope survives from this frozen or playing dead state, afterwards it will naturally discharge this extra energy and adrenaline by shaking uncontrollably to release any excess once the danger has gone. If the antelope is to keep running, it will naturally discharge adrenaline and energy, and when it is safely out of harm's way, will shake off the excess to live another day. There is like a physical response that happens. We respond like animals. Our response to fight or flight are exactly the same as animals, but with one big difference. We have a mind and we have emotions, and they get in the way of this natural instinct to release this excess. We are far more complex than animals. Our minds enable logic and reason, both of which prevail in our society. Logic and rational thinking is our adversary as well as being a blessing. In relation to post-traumatic stress, our mind and emotions can play havoc, attempting to make sense of what and why, and where our primal instincts are the only thing that mattered at the time to survive. We need our minds to help us get out of tricky situations. Indeed, our minds are essential in survival, but our mind and emotions can get in the way of the natural cycle of responding to completing the stress response. We can use our minds to control our emotions during and after the event, suppressing our natural instincts, for example, to scream or shout. So it is important to allow the natural release of emotional energy after the event or during the event. Shaking and shivering are physical reactions to shock. Yet so often our minds shut the release of emotions and this physical reaction, eventually keeping us in the trauma of the past. So how does this all relate to the ancestral connection? Well, we are made of energy, which is the underlying essence of all life. That is a fact. Energy forms the matrix of our physical, mental, and emotional soul patterns. Energy connects everything together, past, present, and future, which means we can inherit certain genetic diseases from our ancestors through our DNA. We also inherit energy patterns from our ancestors too, including stress patterns. Now, today I'm talking about post-traumatic stress disorder, but we can also be predisposed to inherit depression and anxiety, for example. How well your ancestors dealt with stress may well be the answer to how you deal with stress. Here's what I mean. If your ancestors suffered major injury or emotional stress, such as war, it is the legacy of those patterns of unresolved shock that are held in the cells of the body of our ancestors. These shocked cells affect the energy patterns that are carried through our ancestral lineage. It is a little more complex than this, but essentially you may be carrying the pattern of trauma from your ancestors. So what are the symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder? Well, there are many actually. Disturbing thoughts, feelings or dreams related to the events, mental and emotional distress, heightened negative emotions such as fear, not able to distinguish real survival fear and imagined fear, dizziness, feeling numb and disconnected from your feelings, a need for isolation, feeling you are being watched, paranoia, emotional outbursts, changes in personality, feeling depressed and a constant feeling of anxiety, feeling like you can't breathe and feeling trapped. Anniversary regression resulting in physical symptoms of shock, for example, like you're reliving the event, shivering and feeling cold, headaches, irritable bowel syndrome, digestive issues, and many other physical conditions can be a result of post-traumatic stress. Now, through my own personal life experience and having suffered post-traumatic stress disorder, I know what it's like to be physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually fragmented. Using my experience of 20 years in practice, I combine different techniques and skills to clear blockages in your system and bring back harmony. And help is just a click away, as treatment sessions are available online. So for more information, please go to my website, janieseaman.com. And thank you for listening.